Monday through Saturday, beer can be sold from 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. What kind of hair of the dog maniac is buying beer at 7 a.m.? Hey! Oh my God, she really did it. And the last thing we want is soccer moms kicking back with their plastic tumblers in the back of a gas station. We all live on the edge of town. Where we all live ain't a soul around. People come around and we are just a grin. So we gotta move it out 'cause city's moving in.
This is the Snaggletooth Rock and Roll Podcast.
Episode 4. Yes.
I actually had to employ we usually just do this for fun, yelling out to our Google home system to broadcast, but I honestly was in quite a pickle.
Yes.
And I yelled for you, but you couldn't hear me. One of our ceiling fan has the individual globes. The globe had worked loose until it was basically just hanging. The only reason it was still attached is because it was caught around the light bulb. And I thought this was not a good idea. So I shut the fan off and tried to undo the light bulb, which instantly burst in my hands, which is probably not good because it's those curly light bulbs. And then the globe started to fall.
It was very fast and bulbous, if you ask me.
So I had to yell for Mark to come.
She broadcasted.
I
have a broadcast message from Mark. Help! We're like, oh dear, this can't be good. So as I walked up the stairs, we have this bureau that's top heavy, and it scares the crap out of me. And I thought, it's finally happened. She's pinned under the bureau. I know it. And as I rushed upstairs, it was just her kind of fighting with the ceiling fan. So it was a ceiling fan emergency. Yeah.
Yeah. Then we also discovered that mystery. Of course, in the middle of this, I noticed that, we have 5 animals. So the ceiling fan gets hairy on the edges.
How does that happen?
Wipe it off.
How does the stuff stick to it when it's spinning? I don't understand that. I think the physics of that is beyond my comprehension. They all get crummy, but how if they're spinning? Wouldn't it fly off?
You would think it would beat it off.
Yeah, I don't understand it.
Come at us in the comments.
I've always wondered, how does dirt stick to a ceiling fan blade?
I see the scientific formula as like centrifugal force times the pet hair nexus that pulls it together into tumbleweeds times, I don't know.
When I was in physics class back in high school, we used to make up our own scientific abbreviations. It would be like force of articulation, fart, times circumference of hair, chair. Yeah, we would make our sentences out of it. Yeah, we were always getting in trouble in that class. And the teacher, Jimbo, we used to call him, I won't tell you his last name because that would be indiscreet. He would move us one chair. He would instead of the nuns used to move us to another zip code, he would move me one chair over. So instead of us talking like this, it would be like this. And he would be looking at the back of my head the whole time. I'm like, Jimbo, come on, move me further away than this. There's going to be some funny shit going on here. So anyway,
you never know.
Ceiling fan.
The mysteries of the pet hair nexus will never be
crisis averted. So let me explain the madness behind us. Okay, so this picture, I'll put it up so you get a better shot at it because all you see is Stacy's panicked face. We were so obsessed with sparks at this point in our relationship. We wanted to do a picture of me being under the table with her.
And we're not home. We're at
a fondue restaurant.
Like a fancy fondue restaurant.
And so when we got the opportunity, we were like, all right, let's get under the booth. So this picture is of Stace and I under the table with her. Dinner for 2 has become dinner for none. Okay.
It looks like a tent, but those are actually, you'll see the bench of the booth, and those are our coats up there.
Let me just tell you, it was pretty nasty up under there when you get to know it for real. I mean,
someone came up to us and asked if he had proposed to me.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the way she wants to be proposed to.
Under the table, not beside the table.
Under all the greasy droppings and old French fries. Yeah. Ugh. So anyway, so we were in Pennsylvania last week, and in Maryland, you can only buy alcohol at liquor stores. But we learned while we were there that this 24-hour gas station sells beer and wine. And there was a sign that had extensive regulations that I will show now. Well, this is the first part of the sign.
Oh, the bureaucracy.
Okay. First of all, Monday through Saturday, beer can be sold from 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. What kind of hair of the dog maniac is buying beer at 7 a.m.? As you said, hey, it's 7 a.m. somewhere. I picture some guy up at 6:30 a.m. craving a Miller Lite thinking, the early bird gets the worm.
God.
Yeah.
That's
You don't
just-
actually think I'm going to face a PTA meeting sober, do you? Yeah. Now, the best part is next.
Yeah, wine for some reason has different hours than beer. Maybe wine sleeps in a little bit. I don't know. But
Yeah.
wine is limited from 9 to 11 p.m. So maybe they need a couple more hours to warm up to the wine crowd. Maybe they're a little more uppity. They're a tough bunch, those old broads, sucking down Chardonnay with their Phillips and breakfast sandwiches.
I know nothing of this. This group of people does not exist. Why is the cutoff for wine sooner?
Yeah, so you can only get wine, until 11 instead of 2.
Somewhere there's a desperate couple in the PA parking lot craving Moscato at 7:30 a.m. going, Christ, we have another hour and a half to wait. Yeah. Beer sales are limited to 192 ounces per day, which I did some quick math. That's 16 cans. Wine is limited to 3,000 milliliters per day, which is 3 liters. And I would have to say they seem like pretty accurate numbers to me. After my third full liter of gas station wine, probably best to call it a day. And this is where that phrase comes from. I knew we were in trouble when he opened his 17th beer.
Yeah, I guess I was trying to figure out, what if you're having a party and you forgot to buy alcohol, and at the last minute you decide to need more? Well, you need a lot for a party. So I guess you have to send a few different people in to get stocked up.
Well, in PA also, they have these kind of like beer emporium places that sell like large quantities of beer. So I think you're supposed to do most of your buying there.
Oh.
And then the gas station is for shit, we ran out. It's only 10 o'clock. I think it's that sort of thing. You got to plan a little bit, people here. Come on.
I wonder if Drizzly delivers from these gas stations. And we were also trying to figure out with the beer, like that 192 ounces, it's 16 beers is an odd number because you can't divide that by 6.
You can't buy 2 6-packs and lop off 2. Yeah.
Maybe you can. Maybe it's like eggs. No, some people.
Okay, it gets better. It gets better. You can drink beer inside the store, but not wine. And the last thing we want is soccer moms kicking back with their plastic tumblers in the back of a gas station.
Well, I guess beer is in a container, but I guess you could open wine and slug it right from the bottle.
That's when all hell breaks loose. I mean, I have a business to run, for Christ's sake. Next thing you know, the cheese and crackers are coming out. Crumbs everywhere.
Read the
Please.
sign, no winos.
Total chaos.
Yoga pants.
This was an
Horrible.
interesting. The way they phrased this in the sign. I like this. Here, I'll show you. Alcohol can cause addiction, birth defects, intoxication, and drunk driving. Now, I was thinking about that last part. I would venture to say that alcohol is the leading cause of drunk driving. I mean, I can eat a ton of breakfast cereal, no drunk driving. Sleepy time tea, the numbers don't even come close. I think it would be fair to say that alcohol is the leading cause of drunk driving.
I would think it'd be fair to say alcohol is the only cause of drunk driving.
What a great sign.
Maybe NyQuil? I don't know.
As soon as I saw that sign, I was like, this is comedy gold. Click, click. Okay. Hi, Annabelle. Let's talk about our feature interview this week. It's a really good one. It is our first alumnus return.
It's our first return.
Our first return. Margarita Monet from Edge of Paradise. We are all very excited about the brand new album Hologram, which drops officially July 14th. We'll talk to Margarita about some of the challenges the band faced putting together this bold sci-fi concept album. And what else?
The amount of work put into this is amazing. It's not only a concept album, it's a graphic novel, it's a comic book, there are videos, there's even a basilisk.
Yeah. A basilisk that's left behind. A hippogriff that's quite malign. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no.
We've had that one. So anyway, stay tuned for that. Let's play a song. This is going to blow your mind. Check out Hologram. I don't know if you can see what's behind us. I'll put up on the screen, but let me just tell you that the cat's out of the bag on this one. Okay, let's talk about Patreon. The site is patreon.com/Snaggletooth Podcasts. And for $6.66 a month, you can unlock tons of infinitely comedic material that you can't find anywhere else.
As well as my patented cooking tips.
Yes, of which we need more. Yeah.
Yeah, we will give you more.
So I did a piece this week I brought out some dusty old copies of Rip magazine. Remember that magazine? Late 80s, early 90s. It's an interesting study. I mean, would you like to know, did the reviews still stand up? Were there cheesy artists or were the artists staying type of artists? You'll just have to check out Patreon and see.
Did they ever have any big articles about someone who went nowhere?
A lot of the articles are like, we're partying down with Slash. It's 2:00 in the morning and we're all just getting up. It's like a lot of that. It's a lot of like journalism during the party, but I'll tell you
I guess
more
that's
during the
why
end.
they called it. They should have called it
Hungover magazine.
hungover.
Yeah. So this is going to sound a little weird, but you're going to find out soon who our collectorbation artist is. And I enjoyed it so much. It's some of my favorite records. I'm going to review 2 on the show, and then Patreon are going to get the next 2. So again, more content that you can't get here. You got to go over to Patreon. You'll get additional 2 more collectorbations from this week's show. So this week's Snaggle Trip is a very interesting one. Nothing is more rock and roll than huge spools of aluminum wire.
Yeah, don't be jealous. I know all the bands are going to be wanting to play in front of them now.
When you see this place, yeah. Our Snaggle trip this week was to Ace Logistics, one of the largest commercial warehousing companies in Baltimore. We talked with Alec and Gus, the owners, about how long they've been in business and some of the crazy material that they've had to pick up and store and have delivered for customers all over the world. So here it is, our trip to Ace Logistics.
Well, we are broadcasting from our friends at Ace Logistics in Canton, Maryland.
I mean, really, we do visit the most exotic locations available.
Yes, the first podcast to broadcast from the top of a playground. And now we are surrounded by huge bales of aluminum wire.
Where's that number, Guinness? I think we should be entered.
Absolutely. And then we'll sue them. Yeah. You have forklifts. This warehouse, this company warehouses anything from flooring to plywood to giant spools of metal to canned goods to anything else you can think of. Ace has been around for years and years. We'll talk to the owners and they'll tell us a little bit more about the history of the company, which is actually quite interesting.
It's one of the few places you could use that when you're limbering up your vocals. The aluminum linoleum song. I think we might actually have aluminum and linoleum.
I think we have both. So we were very excited about the AI DJ from Spotify.
Mine
couple
kind
weeks
of was
ago.
goofy at first. I think because I have my dance class list and my regular listening list, and he kept trying to sneak in hip hop, and I'm like, no, that's not my regular music.
Yeah.
So then and then he straightened up.
Mine got fired this week.
God.
Despite having hours and hours of listening data, my Spotify DJ tried to sneak in not 1 but 2 Paul McCartney songs.
Why?
By the time the second one started, I had already gotten him a virtual cardboard box, started to box up his virtual fern and all of his virtual family pictures.
Oh, no.
And he said, "Yo, Mark, it was only 2 songs." And I said, "Sorry, I'm sending you the virtual Cobra letter this afternoon. So we're not picking up your option. We're going in another direction. How do you want me to say it to you?" So
I can just see the little bubbles of AI starting a picket line, somewhere.
and mine is at the back of it. So in other news, strange things that men do, thinking about this. You had some examples. Someone shaving in the waiting room?
Yeah, we actually one time had a patient walk in, check in, sit down in the waiting room, whip out his electric shaver, and just start shaving.
Just start clipping your toenails at the airline gate. Why not? So, anyway, I was thinking of, man, these guys, you see these dudes in the wintertime when it's like snow blowing sideways, and they must wear shorts.
Shorts guy. Shorts year round.
they
They're
must
never
wear-
cold. Their legs are never cold.
They must show off their nasty toenails with mandals year round.
I'd almost rather have that than sandals and socks. It's so confusing
That's
to me.
not a good look.
It's like, are your feet hot or cold? I'm confused.
That's not a good look. That's not a good look. So this friend of mine I work with was telling me a story. His wife, when she cleans the bathroom, she leaves like all the bottles and cleaners and stuff in
I
there.
tend to too.
And he decided he was going to pitch in.
Mhm.
So he started consolidating, throwing things away, cleaning up basically, putting things in cabinets. And in the process, he did mix ammonia and bleach. So
That's a bomb.
yes. So
That's not a virtual bomb. That's an actual
several
bomb. Don't
minutes
try
later,
this at home.
Several minutes later, he heard an interesting sizzling sound. As he picked it up, he could feel the pressure building. Threw it into the tub at just the right time. It exploded in a cloud of chemicals,
God.
but the porcelain was never cleaner after the dust settled. Now, of course, his doctor told him that from inhaling the poisonous fumes, he shouldn't fall asleep that night because he might suffocate.
Probably took 4 years off his life.
Yeah. But the men that heard the story all said, what does she want? So you cleaned up the bathroom, you decluttered, and the porcelain was never cleaner. What's the problem?
And the bird died, and
Never
the
mind the
cat
death.
was cross-eyed for a week and a half.
I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying this is the way that most men think and process information. And now, fun with fungus.
Interesting things, fungi. You know, they are actually, most people think they're plants because they're growing in the ground. So
Yeah.
your mind says plant. But they actually have a lot more in common with animals than plants. Like they don't use photosynthesis, hence they're not green. They don't have chlorophyll. They grow a little differently. Actually, 50% of their DNA is the same as people,
I didn't know we were going to have math on the show.
which is kind of scary if you think about the Last of Us premise.
Yeah.
Because I don't want that close to my DNA after all that. And it gets even creepier in the fact that in some tropical climates, and there is this fungus, I forget the name of it, you can look it up, but it's like this long. The fungus actually makes zombie ants. And the ants, they basically get taken over. The fungus makes them go to a place where there's good spawning. And then eventually the poor ant dies. And the mushroom or fungus makes use of that ant by eating it.
It takes over that area too, right?
Yeah. And then spores more fungus to make more zombie ants. Now, fortunately, it can't take over people because their body temperatures are too high. But if you've seen the show and Evolution, it gets a little scary.
They're at an ant funeral, and they're sharing thoughts about Steve was a family man. Steve had many positive attributes that he contributed to the colony.
And then he got all crazy and just walked off rather erratically.
Turned out he was a fun guy.
Oh, God.
I know that one actually physically hurts. I know. So, all right. So I used to work at a warehouse very much like this years ago. Okay, I worked in the logistics office, right, which was a bunch of angry truck drivers and coarse women yelling cuss words at each other.
What a great combination. It's like,
I worked with the truck dispatcher. I did brokerage, and the dispatcher dealt with the drivers. And we were doing food deliveries. These grocery chains were kind of frustrating to deal with. So there was a lot of anger in the office, not just from the drivers.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody got refused, or a driver had an attitude or got lippy, or I had trouble getting bills paid or something like that, we tended to slam the phone down. What do you mean you're not taking him? Right? So the more we slam down this office equipment, which is the name for it is telephony, which I love.
telephony.
I love the word telephony, the hooking up of landlines. Anyway, we were very abusive to the landlines at this job. And the more you slam down the phone, the louder you had to talk into it for the person to hear you. And you had to jam it into your ear. So it would be like, it's 3136 Mercedes Drive. Like we had to scream it. And everyone else in the office would be like, why are you two screaming? This is what this office was like. So one time, I remember I was coming into the office, and the dispatcher, John, had just gotten a call that somebody was getting refused, or they weren't going to reload him, or some kind of really bad news. He picked up his keyboard and went, and just smashed it. And keys
He was keyboarding.
He was keyboarding, like Howard Helm. Yeah. Keys went everywhere. And by the time I came into the office, he was trying to put the keyboard back together, but he didn't know how because he didn't know how to type. So he's like, is this where the Q goes? It was like a puzzle, an impossible puzzle. Yeah. On top of that, in their wisdom, they put the temp agency office in the same space as us. He already got all this bedlam, right?
And you
And-
got random people coming and going?
2 guys from the warehouse would regularly come up and just start fighting, physically fighting.
Wow.
Yeah. And they had to break it up. So,
It sounds like a bar.
yeah, it was a crazy job.
Cursing women.
It was a crazy job. And then I had 2 phones on my desk. It was everything was landlines. And to call to get a delivery appointment for these big, like Wegmans, these big food chains, you would hold for 20, 25 minutes. And then they give you half a second. Wegmans, click. So if you got up to pee or wandered away, you had to have somebody as your, phone watcher for you,
We've
So-
done that on the phone with insurance companies.
I
They'll,
believe
they'll
it.
do the same thing.
I believe it. And the minute that you walk away, anyway, so there were times that like I was over a partition copying something and I would hear Wakefern Foods. And I would dive over and grab the phone and like injure myself. There were injuries. It was a regular thing. Yeah, this place was like bedlam. It was crazy. So
I tell you, with cell phones these days, if you get mad at somebody, it's not as impressive to just go thunk and hang up. It's just not that same feel as slamming.
we had a
those.
pile in the corner of the office of smashed up phones and broken keyboards and stuff. Yeah, it was intense.
I had these 2 girls that I worked with at another company, and they were really good friends, but they were either really best friends or fighting.
Yeah.
And the one girl got there early and took the girl's keyboard apart and rearranged all the letters. And the girl was so mad she didn't talk to her for like a week.
Right, but if you know how to type, it wouldn't matter.
She was mad.
My favorite story from this era, we had this ancient sales rep that used to call on us for our trucking company, right? He was like 80 years old, apparently completely detached from reality, this guy. But, he was a nice guy. He was a Jersey boy, kind of like, he was the guy Burgess Meredith plays in Rocky, kind of that, it's a ting of beauty, like that kind of thing. Say, this guy would come in and, he would call and not hang up. He thought he had hung up
Oh,
from
God.
leaving me a message. And his phone message would be like 2 hours long. And it would be like, did you see the ass on that new secretary?
Oh, no.
And I would just let it play for the office because it was already bedlam. I'm like, oh, listen, Tom's got a new secretary. We're going to hear all about her posterior. Isn't that me too? So anyway, the best part about Tom, he would come up to see me and he would say, Mark, do you got any freight going to the Midwest? I'm talking about Iowa, Illinois, anything like that. You got it? And I would be like, yes, Tom, we actually do. We have regular shipments to Rosemont, Illinois. We have shipments to Des Moines, Iowa. And he would be like, that's beautiful, Mark, beautiful. Come on out to my car trunk. I got something for you. He'd take me out to the car. Here, 3 bottles of wine. Have a T-shirt. I got a hat for
You got
you.
parting gifts?
It was like swag that had the trucking company's name on it, right? And then here's the best part, right? So he leaves the next week. I'm like, loads to Illinois I got to cover. I'll call Tom's company. They were like, loads where? The Midwest?
God.
We don't even go to the Midwest. What are you talking about?
Maybe he was trying to get something going.
And then it was like the Twilight Zone. 6 weeks later, he'd come in. Mark, you got any freight to the Midwest? I think Illinois would be great. And I go, okay, I'll play the game again. I do have freight to the Midwest. That's beautiful. Come on out to my car.
Maybe he just needed to get rid of a certain amount of junk.
I think that in his mind, he was selling what they were supposed to be selling in 1975. I think that the times changed and he did not.
Oh, no.
But yeah, I'll never forget that guy. He was a character. Yeah. Okay, so we're here with Alec and Gus, the owners of Ace Logistics, and they're going to tell you about why this place is like no other.
This place is like no other
I've heard that.
because we're
we
the
own
world's
it.
greatest warehousing company.
Yeah, we are.
Is there anything that you wouldn't warehouse?
We don't do hazardous material because we're not licensed, trained, or insured.
Or interested.
We're interested. I mean, it's, yeah, you're right. I don't want to glow at night. I have enough issues already. But we wanted to thank our friends at Snaggletooth for putting out such a wonderful podcast and the opportunity, and having you here as our guest is wonderful.
Let me point out that Gus had a custom decay hat made for us. Very cool. This will also be available soon. And Snaggletooth swag.
So it's just like the next Gucci, Ralph Lauren. Is that what's happening here?
Yes,
Could be,
definitely.
right. So
Very
we also
impressive.
We also have a sportswear company, and we create hats like that, shirts, coats, jackets, custom underwear if you like.
All over the world,
That could be a line.
everywhere.
It's, we do it all.
Yeah.
We do it all.
How many buildings do you guys have in Baltimore these days? I should know by now.
We have 9 buildings and 6 outside parking yards.
Are they all far apart or close together?
The furthest one is 20 miles away. Everything else is within a 2-mile radius of the port. Our business is port driven. We do imports.
So most of the things come via ocean,
Containers. Yeah, the
containers,
ocean
rail, or boat.
Exactly. We do we do rail and boats.
What is the most unusual product or thing that you've ever had here? Anything living or
Radioactive.
radioactive?
No, nothing that glowed. The double-decker buses were pretty cool.
They were actually from England.
Right.
Used tour buses that were brought here.
Where did they go?
I think either Washington, D.C. or New York.
Wow.
Those are the 2 markets for that product.
Maybe they're currently tour buses somewhere.
They
Yeah.
probably are.
Yeah, they are. But they came here because one of our services is bonded warehouses for customs. And until you pay your tariff, nothing comes in the country. So they had to wait here until they got their paperwork done.
Paperwork, and they had to get their engine and all the documents done for being able to drive on American roads.
And how long do you normally, is there a turnaround time or is there ever something that just sits forever?
So usually food products turn 6 times a year, non-food products 4 times a year.
Wow.
That's the average. So once every 3 months, once every 6 times a year, 6 weeks. So pretty, it moves quickly.
So
Stuff doesn't sit long
your
term.
food stuff, is that mostly canned stuff? I mean, I guess you don't have
All
fresh.
dry canned.
Dried canned.
Yeah, no refrigerated, no frozen.
No big freezers of meat.
No.
Not at this point.
And where do you think you guys will go? Do you think you'll stick with the same type of inventory? Are you open to other things?
Well, we have done very well through the years because we've always cultivated a variety of products. So, for example, when COVID came along, the metals slowed down, lumber stopped because construction stopped, but food went up because everybody was sitting at home eating.
Food went wild.
Were you guys warehousing toilet paper?
No, we
No,
weren't.
we did not have paper.
Unfortunately, no.
You could have been selling it out the back dock.
We had
Yeah,
lots
we
of
had
food.
like a black market,
Yeah.
right? But we get great comfort in knowing that if a particular market drops on something or slows down, something else will pick up, and then you keep product moving, and it's worked out well for us, and that's why we've been able to survive and successfully service our clientele.
So you really have to keep your finger on the trends.
You keep your finger on the trends. The other thing is by having so many facilities close, we can always become very efficient and cost effective because we can keep juggling our manpower.
Wow.
When one building's quiet, the other one's busy, you move the crews.
Now, does it matter based on what the product is, what building it's stored in? Like, do bigger things have to go in one place, or this is a pretty high ceiling?
The short answer is it doesn't really matter conceptually. For us, it matters for purposes of efficiency because if you put a lot of metals in one building, then metals require heavier duty forklifts, so you can service them better. If you put lumber in a building, lumber is longer or wider, so you have to have a building that has wider pole spans, so you don't beat the product up. So, and we have older buildings, mid-age buildings, newer buildings, but we're clean freaks, so it doesn't matter. We put food in older buildings. For us, it doesn't make a difference. Everything's
And
food
in your
grade.
food buildings, you have to have inspection services and accreditations in order to store it properly.
How often do you have to get inspected?
Well, we get inspected twice a year from outside agencies, but we do weeklies and then we have quarterlies.
Wow.
And everything is documented and there's checks and balances in place. So
Well, that's great. All right. Well, this has been really nice to catch up with you guys and hear all about Ace Logistics
thank you.
and Ace
Yeah.
Sportswear. Yeah.
and we appreciate the visit.
We
Doors
hope you
always
like
welcome.
the scenery.
Yeah.
It's a little
Tell them all
different.
about the
Yeah.
huge spools of
Yeah, do you
wire.
love what we've
That's
done to
right.
the place?
That was nice. I like when we're inside, you
Yeah.
know.
It's a good getaway always, and good people always.
And they took us out to dinner, and I had a piece of prime rib that was bigger than my head. I mean, it was like a brontosaurus steak. It really was. It took me 3 days to eat the thing. Yeah, good times.
I went for the crab cake.
It
I
was
ate all
also
of
good.
it.
It was all good.
I ate all of it. All
We
of
had
it.
excellent dinner after this. Yes, they were very pleased to be on Snaggletooth. So just some perils of daily living.
God. More. There's always more.
I love this woman. When she vacuums, she loves to vacuum. She can entangle 96 feet of cord upstairs, through doorways, down hallways, and unwittingly bind me by the ankles, which is not the type of bondage that I had in mind most of the time.
I also specialize in sucking up socks and running over the cord repeatedly until I moderately electrocute myself and plugging it.
Yeah, you don't have good juju when it comes to vacuums. When I was in college, I bought a vacuum like my freshman year, and I had it for like 6 years. Like
Oh.
it was fine.
I
I think I
honest-
gave it away to someone. I don't know what, it's not like you're hard on them. It's just they don't
Well,
like you for some reason.
Like aforementioned, we have a lot of animals, and I don't know what people vacuum up who don't have animals, because 90% of what I vacuum up is animal hair.
Yeah, the people that don't have animals, like what are they vacuuming? You know, like
Little
I guess
dust.
little bits of dust.
They
Yeah.
probably have to empty their vacuum once a year.
These are people that can actually have carpet. I scoff at thee. Yeah.
We have our new floor here.
Yes.
We'll be
We've eliminated all bits of carpet. It
putting-
put up a fight though. It gave Stace a rash. Did we talk about that on the show?
yeah, a little.
Okay.
We talked about it at the hip priest a little. But,
Okay. Yeah. She's still getting over it, by the way.
yeah,
The carpet that fought
so,
back.
yeah, we're still putting this room back together little by little. So you'll notice some changes coming soon.
Yeah, but you're pretty good with tangling up phone cords too, aren't you?
You know, and I know not a lot of people have the old landline phones, but I do on my desk at work. So I pick it up. I think it's because I always pick it up the same way.
They would always get tangled up. Yeah.
And all of a sudden I go to pick it up, and like the line is this short because it's all tangled. And it's like, you can't even get the
And
phone.
that's
to
why
work.
That's why we don't use them anymore. That's why we went to cordless. I mean, all the way back in 2001 or whatever, you know. Come
So
on.
the only thing to do is to dangle the receiver and just let it like unfurl itself the other direction. But I remember having a phone, like a landline, when I was growing up in our upstairs kitchen. I could make it all the way down the hall into the bathroom, pee, and never get off the phone. The cord was so
This is what
stretched
this is
out.
what fuels your vacuuming patterns, I think. What I think is worse are the fucking piles of PC and video cables down here for the show, lying all over the basement floor like spaghetti. The problem is, I don't know what it is. When I buy cables, I tend to buy them either 50 feet long, way too long, or 3 inches short, where you're like bumping your head into the monitor.
I did the same thing on Amazon with phone charger cords. I either buy the 6 feet of cords, which are ridiculous,
Yeah.
or the last time I bought ones, it's like this big. If your phone's charging, you can't even.
Yeah,
use it.
the connectors that connect Snaggletooth behind us, it's like this big. I made it work, but yeah, it's there's not a lot of room there. Yeah. Plus then again, of course, we have Jax, our blind dog. Is he here?
He's
Oh, here
sleeping.
he is. He's asleep. Constantly wants to be underfoot. And we have Little Bear that actually caused me to hit the deck when she scurried in front of me a couple months ago. I'm starting to think we need more personal injury insurance.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute, my phone is ringing.
What? Oh no, this isn't happening.
I didn't warn you, but sorry. Hello, this is Mark.
Will razz my berries and call me a flutterbum. This is a review of my relatives.
Wow, you related to these people somehow, Stu?
I always thought Stu was created from low-hanging power lines or something.
Easy on the apple butter, Mrs. Mark. I had a swell time baking this biscuit.
So many food references.
We'll start off with Aunt Mildred from my mother's side. Spunky yet unassuming. She just makes the best licorice and turnip sandwiches I've ever tasted. Solid 4 out of 5. Getting hungry just thinking about it.
Stu, this is a picture of Jim Carrey.
Grab hold of your earth pads for this next one. My Uncle Rufus may be a little off the cob, but few people realize he actually invented air conditioning. I give him a 3.
Nice drawing, Stu. I like the kill, kill, kill at the bottom. Very nice touch.
You're a panic and a half, Mrs. Mark. My aunt was Fat City with a Polaroid.
Invented air conditioning.
Word from the bird, Mr. Mark. Moving on to my sister-in-law, Pauline. She's not just a classy chassis. Social worker, poet, farmer, and astronaut. Makes me proud to be a North American. 4 out of 5.
I'm looking at a picture of tractor tires, Stu. Am I missing?
Yup, we're halfway to Anthem, Mrs. Moore. I'll wrap it up with an homage to dear cousin Newt. He could really speak the King's jive. 4 languages, and what a gas to the ankle biters. 5 stars.
Plus, he's a fish. At least that's what we're looking at.
Well, this was better than backseat bingo. I'll have another set of reviews for you faster than you can say Pinky's out of jail.
You know, I'm going to start intercepting Stu's packages before you see them.
Bye, Stu. Please do. Okay, now that we're recovering
Okay.
from that,
Yeah,
why don't you
I-
introduce the song?
I don't know what that was, but let's get back to some more music. This is more Edge of Paradise. This is Soldiers of Danger.
Okay, let's talk about Coffee AM.
Coffee AM is as the name suggests, I guess it suggests, it's an online shop full of flavored coffees, regular coffees, micro coffees, fair trade coffees, pretty much anything coffee related or even tea. That you can buy it in half pounds, you can buy it in full pounds. They are a rewards program. So they give you points for your purchases eventually, so you can get dollars off. They ship FedEx from Georgia right to your home. We've enjoyed a Rainforest Hazelnut Crunch, I think are some of our favorite flavors. They make a delicious Italian black chocolate coffee. Their regular coffees are good. I like the one from New Orleans, the chicory. And they have so many, they even have super expensive ones if you're really into, Hawaiian crazy coffee. But anyway, click on our link. And you too can order great personalized. They'll even personalize your bag.
There's an accounting reference here. I have a feeling that the place is run by bean counters. All right. Electrobation.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really excited about this one. We're going to talk about the first Aerosmith album from 1973. And I'm just going to keep getting them out. Hold that. Eight-track.
8-track. I think this recorded the moon landing.
CD. So, to say I'm a little fanatical about this album would be an understatement. We took a shot at Steven Tyler and the Dolly Parton, Billie Eilish thing a few weeks back, but honestly, this is one of my favorite records.
The hell are they wearing?
It's sort of like our green screen picture. Yeah. Maybe I'll dig up the geek out between me and Ronnie from Kicks because he and I really geeked out about this record. Maybe I'll play that for you. But anyway, it's 5 wide-eyed kids from Boston. They wander into a studio to record 8 songs they could bang out in their sleep. Despite the stripped-back tone of the recording, Aerosmith's debut pulses with energy. The band is channeling everything from the Yardbirds to The Who to avalanches of dusty R&B singles. It's the musical marriage of these old souls that had bolts to jolt from the very beginning. The rawness of the album is just incompatible with anything else. All the elements that made them legendary are already present. The jagged blues riffs and brazen harmonies of Perry and Whitford, Tyler's razzle-dazzle vocal strut, the rollicking piano bits, and the skin-tight rhythm of Kramer and Hamilton. They were miles ahead of everybody else from the very beginning. It's hard to tell the covers from the originals. The stylistic grit and rip-roaring solos of Mama Kin, cut from the same cloth as the sexy driving blues of the old standard Walkin' the Dog. Tyler's vocals dwell conservatively at the lower end of the range. He's sort of like Ozzy on the early Sabbath records. He didn't want to go too high, and the effect is marvelous. From the future billion-dollar seller, Dream On, to the playful syncopated back porch jam of Moving Out. The album culminates in the breezy oasis funk of One Way Street. Impeccable groove, bouncing keys, Jagger swagger, it's all there. The solos are electrifying. Me and my friends used to call the radio station, ask them to play One Way Street when we were drunk. They never did. They never did. Like, no, don't play Dream On. One Way Street, play it. They never played it. And they were probably tracking us the whole long time. Yeah.
They knew who you were.
I had planned to read something from Joe Perry's book about this album, but sadly, he's got almost nothing good to say about it.
Really?
It's my favorite Aerosmith record, but he just keeps talking about how he didn't like the way the cover came out, and he thought they were only sounded 50% as good as their potential. It's a bunch of bullshit to me. The band's path to world domination had begun. We all live on the edge of town. Where we all live ain't a soul around. People come around and we are just a grin. So we gotta move it out, 'cause it is moving in. This is moving out. All right, Collectivation 2, Get Your Wings, 1974.
Do I get to hold this one?
Oh, wait, why don't I get it out? Okay. Okay. Collectivation 2 is Aerosmith, Get Your Wings, 1974. This record has had the shit loved out of it, okay? So, I mean, this is not going to win any collector awards, all right? But you can smell the beer. I mean, why don't you go ahead and talk about this a little bit? I kind of dominated the last one.
This is Aerosmith Get Your Wings from 1974. This was recorded at the record plant in New York City. Aerosmith's hard-fought sophomore effort fell under the studio guidance of Bob Ezrin.
Yep.
The band was forging a critical alliance with engineer Jack Douglas, a name that would become synonymous with quality records throughout the 70s and beyond.
Yeah.
Definitely a snazzier looking record than the debut, which they all look a little confused.
They only had the woolly bat for this. They didn't keep it.
Hmm.
I don't think there's any other albums with the woolly bat.
Maybe
Maybe it didn't take off.
Maybe he was a nearly flightless bat.
Yeah, they do look kind of uncomfortable in the cover shot. The record contains tons of munificent bluesy classics like Same Old Song and Dance, our heroes thudding around agreeably with an Ezrin assembled cast of wonderkin horn players, seasons of where there wasn't the cash cow ballad like Dream On, but Perry's exacto jangles and wells of sensitivity bubbling up from Steven Tyler were ahead of their time. The nasty extended take on Train Kept a Rollin' has become the stuff of classic rock radio legend. We talk about it in our very first show. Yes. The band explodes into flames like a tinder roofed hut in the live finale of the track. The cream rises quickest in Lord of the Thighs, the only song that really captures the ratty, soul-drenched spunk of the debut, with rolling piano and slithering groove throughout a seedy New York subway.
You got the way to make a man, honey. You got to understand I'm your man, child, Lord of the Thighs.
Lord of the Thighs.
All right, so we've come to our We've come to our feature interview with Margarita from Edge of Paradise. This is a woman near and dear to our heart. We interviewed her way back in season 1. Anything we have asked this woman to do, including recording sound bites for us, advice, she's always been there. She
gets it.
Yeah, she gets it. She is also on our wall of fame back there. You probably can't see her, but her picture's back there, signed and everything.
Yep.
So we were really excited to have her back now that we're a little more experienced on season 3.
Yep.
So here is our chat with the beautiful and talented Margarita from the Edge of Paradise. So since we last talked to you, you're actually on our wall. So that's exciting. We have
a wall of fame.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
last time we talked to you, I think it was like completely black back here. I don't think we had anything. When I look at like our first videos, I was like, oh my God, that looks horrible. So we added in
I like this
bands and
Cool.
all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So you've been just a little bit busy.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, it's just we had it's good busy and then just a lot of things just happening that I wish didn't happen, but we just have to deal with them as we go. But all good.
Tell me about it. My son got married last weekend. It was just like it was so stressful. Everybody's like, "Oh, congratulations!" I'm like, "No, this was really, really stressful." It was just all this stuff. And the girl she married's from Nepal. So we had a Nepalese ceremony. And I'm like, somebody's got to put this stuff on me because I don't even know how to fold this. And then we had a Western ceremony. And my daughter insisted we have hair and makeup done. And I'm like, oh. So
yeah, that was
That's really cool. Wow. Like culture mixing.
It was cool that our side had about 15 people, and her side had about 300 from Nepal.
God.
So
It was a lot of
it
fun.
was
but I'm not gonna get into it.
overwhelming. Yeah.
Well, you just finished a huge tour, which I'm hoping maybe will continue because I love Lacuna Coil and I love you guys. And Birthday Massacre is new to me. How was it working with those guys?
It was a great tour. It was, there's nothing bad I can say about it. I mean, you know, all the tours are always fun, but it was just such a great collection of people. The shows were amazing. Just the bands, they're so much fun and inspiring, and the energy was great. The venues were awesome. We had a blast. I mean, you know, there's always like a bit stressful because you're like, just hope everything just works out because there's so much that goes into a tour.
Yeah.
But it was also a new setup for us because we had our own sound guy, Brandon. We had like a whole new system that we brought with us. So it was, you know, just kind of when something is new, you worry about it a little bit. But everything worked out great. It was just another step up for us, stage show wise. And we had a really great response from the crowd. So we're just really happy and we can't wait to do it again.
Was this the first time with your light box? I saw some shots of that where you could really get up on it. And did you make that or?
You know, I had something like that before. Yeah, this one, well, I made part of it. Like the box itself, it comes like it, and then I put these lasers on top. So like when it's dark and we have some fog, you can really see it. So we incorporated some more lasers and some lights. So it was a lot of fun. I tried not to look down at it, so it doesn't like shoot into my eyes.
It's really good because you could, and it's almost like energy, like your energy getting, you know, transposed to the crowd. It's great. Yeah, we interviewed this one poor girl and they use a lot of lights from Night Goat, and she actually has to wear a hat or she'll like strobe out and run into something. So sometimes she does run into stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
But I love that. So I saw like a sample of like a set list, which was like Soldiers of Dangers, This Is Personal, Digital Paradise, One Last Time, Unbeatable, Basilisk, and then The Unknown. Did you vary it up or did you try to stick with the same set list?
And when we did during the tour, I guess because everything's kind of planned, so we had to follow the set list like it was, just because, you know, between us, between the sound guy, just the flow of the show. So it was pretty consistent.
Well, that, and I mean, it's a good mix of new and favorites, I thought, you know, smart. But what was your favorite song to perform out of it? Did you have a favorite?
That's so hard to say because some of the songs are new, and when you're playing something new, it's always like the energy is so exciting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Soldiers, it's just such a great opener, and I think it really sets the tone and it brings people in. And then, you know, following up with Hologram and then, you know, more upbeat songs. It's like, it shows a good range of our style and it gets people going. So we always kind of get into the energy of the songs. And I mean, it's hard to say because like I always love The Unknown as well. It's a song that we close with, and that's like you know, very close to my heart. So it just depends on what song. Like it's every song has its own energy, I would say, you know. But the new songs are definitely fun. So
Yeah, it's hard to pick, I know, out of all those. I was like, that's a really good set list.
So what happened with Frontiers? What happened? I mean, it seems like everything's worked out now.
Has it got
or-
resolved to your satisfaction now?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
well,
what can you say? I mean, you know, if you can't say anything, then you can't say
Then
anything. Yeah. But,
you know, at this point, I mean, there's, you know, we don't, it's just like we always want to focus on the music. So that's why we never really like talking about like the business side of things and anything but it's just there was a lot of confusion because the songs came out and we weren't really posting about them because they came out on our surprise. Well, what happened is this is our last album for them. So the way it works with us is they give us half the advance, then we deliver them the album, then they give us the rest of the advance, plus the music videos and so forth, the artwork, the fan photos. So when we delivered the album, they never gave us the advance back for the album, the artwork, for the photos, for nothing. And we kept asking, and then they're like, well, unless you sign over all your publishing to all the other songs, to all your other albums and this one, we're not going to give you the advance back. And like a dispute between like when the album was going to get released, because we're like, we have a tour coming up, we want the the album to come out around the tour, before the tour, so we can promote it.
Right, play the song. Right.
Yeah, and they didn't want to release that around the tour. So when but besides the point, the main thing was the fact that they were supposed to give us the advance according to their own contract. There was nothing in the contract that says we have to give them publishing for nothing. So that's why it was our dispute. So on our side, it was a breach of contract. So our lawyers was like, the contract's terminated. Then obviously they didn't agree with that, so they already had the album because I sent it to them. So they just distributed it, and the distributor, they kind of like stayed out of it. So that's why, like, for us to really get the music down, and that's what we kind of figured, we either pursue that, but that would cause the music to sort of be in limbo, and at the time we didn't really want that. So we just figured we're gonna promote the music, and of course Frontiers aren't really promoting it, and so everything's I don't even know where we stand right now. I mean, I know that we're officially we're free and clear. The album there. The album's up there. We're happy that people are hearing the music. We're gonna do what we can promoting it, and it's still our music. Once this licensing timeline is over, it's our music. So that's the silver lining. And now we're back in the studio writing more music, and just focusing on the future. And we have a lot of shows coming up, so we're things are good. It's just, I guess every band has a story like this.
Yeah.
Oh, some much worse.
Yeah, so much worse. Yeah.
Yeah, I was so afraid to like anything because every time I saw it, you were like, take this down. I'm like, I don't know. I want to like this, but I don't want to like this. I'm so confused.
Because we, at the time it happened, we were still figuring out the plan of action. And we didn't know, because some of the distributors were taking it down, like YouTube took it down. So we didn't know which way it was going to go. But we just figured, like, that's why we figured it's out there. We're just going to go with it, because we didn't want it to affect, the people, our supporters, fans, just like, we didn't want to put any negative thing out there. So.
Good. So now I'm safe to like.
Yeah, you're safe to like. Well, I'll tell you what, wow. I mean, it's a shame, because tell me about that. How did you come up with the idea of the concept album? I mean, I can just tell so much work went into this. Like, how did that come up?
Yeah, I mean, we're so proud of this album, and that's why it's a little bit of a shame that things the release of it got derailed a little bit. We didn't really get the proper preparation, but I think it's this album with this lineup, it's really the first time that everybody was so involved, because before it was more Dave and I, and now like the whole band is, we're in the studio, so the energy behind the album is much different. It's more raw, it's more, we're like so it's like us against the world in a way, or against the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, when
But
I first heard it, I mean, it was instant. I was running the first time it just happened to come on my Spotify, and I immediately knew it was Edge of Paradise. But I thought, this is just as hard and heavy. It's got like more hooks than Velcro, but it just seemed a little darker to me. So I didn't realize it was a concept and all that. So after I read the whole synopsis, I'm like, now I understand why.
Right.
no, like when I didn't even think about it that it's a concept album. I started realizing it when it's all done and people started like saying that. And then when we started filming music videos, the story sort of started to take shape, because when we were writing the songs, I never really thought of it in that way. But like with the first song, The Faceless, I talk about the faceless in that song. And then it sort of morphed into the faceless civilization. And, as the story and the songs progress, now it's like the civilization that got, have access, figured out a way to merge themselves with super intelligence and are able to use it to their advantage, but then something goes wrong. And then it's like a whole story behind it.
Yeah.
And with Hologram, it's like we're traveling to these dangerous worlds, and the only way we're able to get there is through our holograms, right? So it's kind of like there's a little bit of like questions, like whether like are we holograms or is the world a hologram? So it could be interpreted in many ways. And yeah, we're just having a lot of fun with it. Like the music video that's coming out in July 14th, when the album comes out, it's kind of like the origin story of how the Faceless acquired this artificial intelligence and the key that sort of merges it all together. And so it's fun.
That makes more sense.
We're
I was a little confused about the lyrics when it was like, we're never backing down because we're holograms, hollow holograms. I'm like, I'm so confused.
So yeah, I can kind of tell you the thought behind it. So hologram, it's kind of inspired, I love reading about all these crazy planets, and it's actually inspired by a real planet. So there's a planet out there, it's nicknamed Reign of Terror, because it rains shards of glass sideways and it's a constant storm. So it's like one of the most terrifying conditions out there. And, obviously there's no way anybody could ever survive that. So I figured, if we are able to have our consciousness sort of exist in this digital code, like, the Digital Paradise song sort of started that thought, then we're able to kind of travel anywhere in the universe, right? Because we're not in our physical forms. Mm-hmm. So if we're as holograms, experience all these crazy worlds and, survive because our physical form is somewhere else. But then also the hollow part is kind of asking the question, whether is it really us behind it, or is it just computer, like artificial intelligence? It's just collection of our thoughts and memories, but there's no real soul behind it. So that's kind of like where the hollow thing comes in. But then we're never backing down because we're holograms. It's, the fact that we're able to survive anything. So that's kind of where that whole thing comes together.
That
really
is
clever.
That is cooler than the last 5 Matrix movies. Margarita. It is. And I know that's not saying much, but it is really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, it seemed like you guys were in the studio forever. I kept seeing all kinds of shots. How long did it take to create all this?
Yeah, I feel like we're always in the studio recently, because I don't even remember when we started, but I remember we started and then we had shows and we had to get back, and then we had a deadline that by December 25th, or whatever it was, we had to deliver the album. So our songs, they're a bit more, what should I say? There's a lot of files there. Like I'm editing files right now.
I can relate, yeah.
Long. Yeah, like because we have, it's not just like drums, vocals, and guitars. It's a lot of layers of guitars. There's a lot of industrial samples and keyboards, like a lot of, because I did a lot of the cinematic arrangements, and it takes a lot of time to kind of make sure all the parts work together, because once we record the vocals, then the guitars, then I have to redo all the keywords to make it fit what the new guitars are now. So everything sort of goes through this evolution process. And then we send all the files off to Jacob in Denmark to mix. And that's like a whole process, So yeah, it probably took us a year to make it. But like we started it maybe a year ago, but then really like 3 months is when we were like every day. So
I like your
and then
Instagram studio updates. I like
fun. Yeah,
I enjoyed them.
I like recording. It's really cool to like see what the final song turns into, where it starts and where it ends up.
Let's talk about this artwork. This is some incredible artwork. Like, who did this, and how did you find someone to do this? This is like right out of Steven Spielberg or something,
I
Thank
feel
you. So we just had like a live video with the artist Alex Ruiz. We jumped on Instagram Live, and I asked him some questions, and we had some nice discussions all about like the artificial intelligence and consciousness, because he's all into that.
Right.
So it's really fun to talk to him. But yeah, so my fiance actually knew him before, and he kind of turned me onto his art, and he created the artwork for The Unknown as well. So I just feel like our music and his artwork, it really goes so well together. So when we were making this album, I already contacted him. I was like, Alex, can you make something that's inspired by this album? And he was into it, so that's how we connected. But yeah, he worked for Marvel, he worked for Disney, he is a concept artist. Like he was just telling me he created the Beauty and the Beast remake, he created the Beast, the concept. So yeah, he does a lot of that, and he does a lot of digital art, he does a lot of art by hand. So, and he's just a really interesting person. He's like a true artist. It's always great.
after seeing all your paintings, I wasn't entirely not convinced that it wasn't you.
Yeah.
With all your great artwork.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't like to do cover art just because I feel like, I like painting, but it's just like a little bit of a different style, I guess. And I just like that when you get the outside input, and because it's such a big deal, like it's putting a face to the music. So I'd rather someone than someone that I really trust, and I trust that has the vision, and that obviously Alex is a great artist. So
well, the whole package turned out great. I mean, not just the cover, but the band photos, because they sent us all the whole booklet. It turned out great. So congratulations. It turned out it's stunning. It really is.
I also
thank you.
Really liked how, like, on the lyric videos, you kind of bring those faceless people to life. It looks like they stepped right out of there for the video.
Yeah.
So that worked perfect. We were watching the other night. I'm like, oh, there's the faceless.
Yeah. Eventually, I want to make like mini short films for the music videos, just because I feel like there's so much story to be told. So, but yeah, thank you. I put a lot of thought behind the lyric videos. I hope people enjoy them. So
Yeah, we do.
And who did you also do the graphic novel and the language and the comic book and all of that?
Right, the language is on the back.
my God.
It's on the CD booklet, right?
Yeah, so actually my fiance, his art goes by artist named Dresden7, but his name is Chris. So he created the language for us. years ago. Yeah, it's been like 3 years, 4 years. But he also is behind the kind of the thought, the storyline, because we exchange ideas a lot, and he is in the videos. He's actually he's he's in the music video Hologram. He is the faceless.
That's cool.
But yeah, he is, we're kind of creating it as we go together. The graphic novel, it's not done yet, so we're working on it. I think we're gonna probably release it in the new year, just because we really want to make sure that all the, it's a lot of work, because you have to create all the artwork, the story, merge it all together, and we want to make it more of like an interactive graphic novel where, as you read it, there are QR codes. You can go to the music video that pertains to the story, point in the story, or you go to the song where you are in the story. And we want to make sure like the print is really unique, like maybe use some holographic inks, or just really put a lot of thought into it, and also have it lead into the next album, because everything is sort of the continuation of one another. Like this hologram is sort of continuation where the unknown left off. So
Yeah, that's
we'll
wild.
see. It's a lot of
Yeah, that's great. It's good that you have a good team and you have such pros to rely on, because I know that sometimes with us, we just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and sometimes I'm like, it's got to stop. It's too much, And like with you, a different language, the novel, it's so much. So you have a great network to be able to get all that done.
Yeah, I am lucky. Like we're surrounded by a lot of creative people that
Yeah,
are,
that's great.
it's inspiring, connecting with others over creating. So yeah,
The
lucky in that
books
way.
reminded me when my kids were little. I read them. You probably never heard of it. It's this kids series called Artemis Fowl. It's a bunch of series, and they're like fairies, and they have a whole fairy language. Well, she got so into it, she was intent on learning to write in this language. So maybe there's somebody out there doing that. You never know. When it all comes out.
When I first started, because the language was already on the last album, and we would post, write some messages, and people, because we always have a cipher, but when we first started posting it, some people were deciphering without the cipher. I don't know how. Well, I mean, I know how. It's just, it takes so long, because, it's like so many variations. But yeah, I think it's fun. It's like a secret code.
That is so cool.
Yeah, you're gonna end up getting messages in it. You watch. People with a lot of time on their hands.
Yeah, exactly.
So I thought your sound on this album, if you don't agree with me, tell me, but it's kind of like symphonic metal and hard rock with like some ambient sound sprinkled in. Did the emotions of each song kind of dictate what the blend would be?
Sorry, what was the last part?
There's so much emotion in each song. Did that kind of dictate what the blend would be?
Yeah, it's an interesting point, because like it's always, you never know which way the song's gonna go. I mean, I first make it on like keyboard, so first it starts off by being like really cinematic, because there's just like keyboards and some drum samples, and then I go and put the vocals in, and then as a band we kind of make it into what the song becomes. So I guess, yes, the emotion kind of leads the way, because for me, the melody sort of starts it all. Like I make it on the piano, so I have like an idea for like an instrumental idea, and that sort of inspires me to go into a certain direction lyrically, and then the story of the song comes to life. And then I guess that leads where the music evolves to. And then of course, like when Dave adds guitars, the song sort of grows into and its own thing, but I already recorded the vocals, so for me it's really important when I go record the vocals that I really give it my all, and then the emotion is just, kind of charges it all up. So I guess you're right. I just never really thought of it that way, but yeah.
Well, a good example I think of that is, my God, your vocals on "Don't Give Up on Me" are just incredible. Like, what's going on in that song? Like, what part of the story is that?
Yeah, so that song, yeah, it's I remember writing it. I guess it's kind of about, you know, um, it's hard to say because like because you can interpret it different ways, whether it's a relationship or just, a path you choose in life. But that saying, some people say like, oh, I guess it's not meant to be, or it's meant to be. And then sometimes that saying sort of makes it okay to give up on something, give up on someone. So for me, I always try to sort of be control of my own destiny in a way, even though it's hard because I don't know where I stand on that point of view. I still don't know if I believe in destiny or if I believe that we are creators of our own fate. I kind of want to lean that, but then things sort of happen for a reason, and I look back in my life and things sort of just happen, and I feel like they're supposed to happen in that way. So I'm kind of torn. So the song, I kind of hold on to that idea that we are still in charge of our own fate, and don't give up on it. Don't give up on me. Like, I'm not going to give up on you if I really want to make it happen. If I care about something, I'm not going to give up on it, whether if even if the world is trying to tear you apart.
Wow.
So that's kind of the idea behind it.
Another one of our favorite tracks off this has to be "This Is Personal."
That's my favorite
Oh
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
I like how the tempo slows down as you
Oh,
get mad and you're like laying down your terms. It had to be like your delivery. It's almost like
Mm.
you become an actress. Was there anything you had to think of or gear up to for that kind of emotional, angry performance?
Yeah, I think that song, it's inspired by, when you care about someone, right? They like anything is personal for, like, you're really, you're gonna fight for it. And for me, like, I thought of it as, the band, like, no one's gonna screw with us. Whatever you try to do, like, oh, we're going. So that's kind of like my thought behind it. But yeah.
It comes through. That's a powerful song.
Did you watch The Handmaid's Tale, the series?
No, but I heard so much about it, so I'm gonna watch it.
We've been stuck in it. It's very dark. Like,
Yeah, it's
prepare yourself with Kleenex. But it's like we were watching it last night, and I'm like, I can hear that song in the background. This is personal. This goes perfect.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody comes at you to make this a major motion picture.
Right. Right.
I hope so. One day, fingers
Did
crossed.
you think when you first started out with Edge of Paris, did you think that you'd be making a concept sci-fi symphonic album? I mean, wow, touring with Lacuna Coil. I mean, wow,
it's funny. I was recently talking about this with someone. We were talking about how when you're kind of stuck in the constant, because you're always looking for the next thing, you're always working towards the next thing, so it's hard to just kind of stop and look back. And now that I look back, like, there's so much that we went through, so much that we did, and I do really, like, I'm really proud of it at this point because I know all the sacrifices that went into it to build something. When we first started with Dave, like, what I can say is both of us were really motivated. Well, we were very passionate. We really put in everything we had. I mean, even at the time, I remember, Dave had that 67 Chevelle and he sold it. He loved that car, but he sold it to make the first record. So for the long haul.
Yeah.
And we were, yeah, because we had some really rough times and, we never gave up. And I mean, at this point, like we owe it to ourselves to just keep going. And because at this point, there's no plan B, there's no looking back, it's only forward. So, in terms of sci-fi, like I was always into, like I always wanted to create something that's a little bit larger than life because I love all that stuff. So I'm not surprised in that regard. I think for Dave, I'm more of like the ideas concept person, and he just likes playing guitar. He's like,
Well, that's important, right? Yeah.
So
But
I was
I-
intrigued by the basilisk. This is my best basilisk dress, by the way. You were saying, because you were like mid-tour and you're like, we're going down to the caverns to bring the basilisk to life. So what was that like? Because that's not quite out yet.
yeah, that was kind of it's funny because I always like schedule video shoots and Dave's like, are you crazy? Like we can't do it right now. And I'm like, we gotta make it happen. So but yeah, it's funny. Some people don't know what the basilisk is because I think Medusa is like kind of similar, and people are more familiar with Medusa character. But the basilisk was in Harry Potter.
Yes.
Our drummer Jamie calls the song ballistic. It is, but yeah. The music video is really fun for this one because it kind of turned into the origin story. So I'm kind of embodying the basilisk, and I'm guarding the artifact that was the key to connecting the faceless civilization to super intelligence. So in the music video, it's kind of like the first time where the faceless encounters this basilisk, and he is the chosen one to be able to take this artifact and basically use it to control artificial intelligence. So I can't wait for you guys. Oh, you saw it, I think, right? It's because it's on that page too. But yeah, I'm excited for everybody.
Yeah, I love the hologram video. All of a sudden, there's this blonde lady with claws. I'm like, that looks suspiciously like Margarita.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I think some people who didn't know it was me.
They're like, that's Lady Gaga.
As far as I'm aware, you're the only female in the band. So, I mean, yeah.
They're like, who's the blonde lady? I'm like, guys, come on.
Yeah.
Well, should we do our game?
Yeah, let's do our game.
We still play our game, if you remember. And we just recently redid the questions. So I have 100 questions before me. So you want to pick 5 numbers between 1 and 100.
Okay, let's take 7. Let's take 77. Let's take 87 and 97 and 100.
She's one of those 7
7.
people. Okay. You
Okay,
had this
so
before.
did I miss one?
And one more.
99.
All right. Question number 7. Which was the make and model of your first car?
It was a Jaguar 1998, I believe. It was like one of the old ones. It was a big hunk of metal.
Like driving a boat.
Yeah. That's funny.
Awesome. All right, 77. Are you good at any arts or crafts? I think
Well,
she
I think we
is.
know
I
this.
think we know
We
this.
know this.
I like arts and crafts.
What is the medium you use to paint?
I use acrylic a lot, acrylic paint. I love working with resin. I love making like different resin stuff. But yeah, acrylic is just really easy to work with. It's vibrant. I mean, I love oil paint, but it's a little more involved.
Yeah. That's a good question for her.
Yeah, definitely. All right, 87. What is the most awkward date you have ever been on?
Oh my.
Awkward. You know, it's funny. Like, I never really went out on dates before because I feel like it's just awkward in general.
It's awkward just to start with.
Just-
I went on one of those dating websites. There was on occasion I would leave mid first date. My line was, I have to go to the bathroom, and zing, I was a gazelle to my car. Goodbye.
Well, how did you meet?
Yeah.
How did you meet people if you didn't date at all? You had to have some kind of technique. I mean,
Yeah, for me, it was always like kind of became natural. Like, someone either approaches you or you're there and you just start the conversation and it feels natural, right? I've
okay.
never been thing where you kind of go on a date and you don't know who the person is. Terrifying.
I know it sounds so appealing. I know.
I wouldn't recommend it. 0 stars.
No. Oh my God.
So we did 97. 97. What is your least favorite social media platform?
TikTok.
Oh,
Oh, look at that.
we're soul
Why-
sisters.
Why is that?
I don't know. Okay, it feels like it's not like it was the last social media platform that we joined
Yeah.
because like we started on Facebook and it kind of we grew our community on Facebook, then
Yeah.
Instagram. It feels very personal because you like really get to know your community. Twitter is a little, it's a little different, but still, it's just kind of you post news updates. TikTok, it's weird because there's not, I feel like it's not very personal because I don't really know anybody on there.
Yeah.
People from Facebook and from Instagram come on there. So that's a little different. But then I just, like a platform as a whole, like I have kind of mixed feelings about it. Like I remember when I first downloaded the app, and this was really weird to me because it's like a blank slate, right?
Right.
No history. And then the videos that were pushed onto me were like 12-year-olds dancing to really, profane music, like
my
half
God.
naked, pushed onto me, and I was just like, it was really strange. But then it's just yeah, I don't know how I feel about that app, but everybody's on it, and there's a lot of things you learn a lot from it, from people, because it's a lot of people post really interesting content. But then I think what I don't agree is the platform as a whole pushes the videos maybe shouldn't be pushed as hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like the duck video, and now all I get is ducks and owls.
Yeah. It's the only platform that I actually handle for us. Stace does all the others. And I've learned to like it. But the thing is, I have to put up a joke that is less than 30 seconds. If you go beyond 30 seconds, you're dead on TikTok. So every time we do a show, I have to go, where's my 30-second kill joke? Because that's
that's funny.
not 35 seconds. 35 seconds. No, that's no good. Yeah. So because people are just like, nope. Yeah. Anyway, it's just ADHD,
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So I apologize for this question in advance. Number 99. If you were arrested with no explanation, what would your family or friends assume that you did?
You came up with that one. That's not one of mine. Sorry.
Maybe it's kind of a funny one. I like it.
Yeah, that's a Stace. Yeah.
Snuck into like something in NASA and like press a bunch of buttons and see what it does, or like try to uncover some classified documents.
Yeah.
I like knowing.
Oh, that's great.
Running around stealing artifacts.
This is funny. My parents got one of these scam calls, and they said that my daughter was stuck at the Canadian border, and yeah, and it was the scam is it's a girl's voice, so they think that it's real, right? Wait, and again, my parents are like in their 80s, right? So they call me and they go, "We're in the car. We're going to Walmart to send the Western Union." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Oh my
And
God.
they said, where is she? And I said, "I just dropped her off at Panera Bread where she worked 5 minutes ago." They didn't believe me. They had to call
Oh my
Panera and hear her voice before. I mean, I guess, all right, I'm her father. I just dropped her off. I think I can vouch that she was not stuck at the board. They were ready to send the
Oh
money. They were like, "Let's do it,"
my
Anyway.
God. Yeah.
Well, you have a
Terrible.
lot more coming up. You have the Blue Ridge Rock Festival in September. Is there any band you're really hoping to catch the set of, or are you just gonna kind of go in and go out?
No, there's so many bands. I mean, Evanescence is one of them that I always wanted to see. I think Pantera is playing. So
Yeah.
many bands are playing. Yeah, we're definitely sticking around and watching as much as we can.
Yeah.
So
That's gonna be huge. And then after that, I wasn't real sure where you guys are going. So is the Lacuna Toil, is that done? Or is it gonna be another leg?
there's talks. We're gonna be touring in the fall. It's gonna be announced soon, so it's kind of getting confirmed now. Lacuna Coil is definitely touring in the fall. I don't know if we're gonna be touring with them or someone else. We'll see. But they're definitely coming back, and they're awesome. We're gonna see them in Mexico for sure at the
Okay.
Life After Death Festival. So that one's gonna be in December. And Lita Ford is on it. Camelot is on it. So it's gonna be a really fun one. It's in Mexico City. So our first time in Mexico, so
Oh,
we're
wow.
excited
Oh,
for
that sounds great. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have to let us know how that goes. And I'm hoping still to get you guys over here on the East Coast because I'm selfish.
Yeah, we're coming in October, November, definitely. So
Oh,
we'll
that's
see you.
great.
I'm gonna
Oh,
keep my eyes peeled for that one.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, this was great. As always, Margarita, thank you for doing this. And good luck with the
You guys-
album.
And your major motion picture that's definitely coming up behind this. I can see it happening.
I hope so.
Well,
But
John
thank you guys for
we had this one band, Sick and Beautiful. They actually do all their own special effects. They're in Italy, and they made their own picture. So you're so do it yourself. You'll just be like, oh, we're just putting it up.
Make your own movie. Right.
Your own movie, your own label. It'll be great.
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, thank you so much for taking this time, and we look forward to seeing you live.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you guys. Always such a pleasure. Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
wait to meet you guys finally. We're gonna make it happen this
If you
fall.
come within 500 miles of where we
We'll
live,
be there.
we're going to be
We'll
there.
be there.
We will make it happen.
Falling on deaf ears.
All right, so we are up to our deaf ears. This is better known as artists you are not listening to that you need to start listening to immediately,
You should listen to this. All right, I'm leaving this 8-track here for like the next 6 years.
as well as Edge of Paradise. But our first deaf ears is called Project.
Hey. Oh my God, she really did it. So the first deaf ears, Stacey's going to handle because she likes the logo.
Well, I thought it was cool. Mark thought it looked too Disney. And then it occurred to me if it said Princess Rowan Wolf, but yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
However, we like these guys. And I noticed that even when they abbreviate it, they always put the colon between Project Rowan Wolf. Even on their Instagram page, it says P:RW.
Yeah.
That's how they abbreviate themselves. So
Well, this is the third full length from Hotlantis, Project Rowan Wolf. It does not disappoint. I'm kind of a sucker for Project, man.
Yeah.
I liked Project Failing Flesh. Shrapnel Records had a knack for projects like Project Driver with Aldridge and McAlpine and Kotz and Howe Project. I even like the Joe Perry Project, another Aerosmith reference. How seamless is this material? Anyway, go ahead.
Alan's Parsons Be Praised.
Yes, another
that he left out
project.
that
See what
one.
we did there? Yeah.
But 2023 is turning out to be a very fulfilling year for power metal, from Smolder's Violent Creed of Vengeance to Jagdpanzer's latest opus to this very satisfying cosmic guitar orgy.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of them. We love them.
Yeah.
Give us more.
Good power metal.
Well, anywho, speaking of guitar, Alicia Cordizio, she's actually from Pennsylvania.
Yep.
I noticed, like, on this band, when they list it, they list Atlanta, Georgia, and Harrisburg, PA. So it's a multi-state band. But she really lights a fire under these 8 space epics with fluid, colorful leads and cuts like the rather Seventh Sonish, Honor the Line, and Theater of Sorrow. She's not afraid to harmonize with herself either.
Well, never in mixed company. I mean, she's not an animal, for God's sake.
Project Roanoke's flirtations with thrash and even Patrick Paris's, say that 4 times fast, sweeping dramatic vocals gives the whole thing a full-on Nevermore vibe.
Yep.
And we don't mean like the school where Wednesday went.
No.
He even throws some death grunts our way for Pearls Before Swine.
Okay. Another triumph for Syrup Moose Records. So let's play a song. This is Project Beauty and the Beast with Honor the Line.
Very pompy.
Okay, Deaf Ears 2. This is kind of a weird one.
Yeah, this is a whole different
Shifting gears.
Yeah, shift your gears for this one.
Shifting gears. Okay. The band is from Hamburg, Germany, Deep Dyed. And the album is called Unmade Beds. Now, sometimes you're just not in the mood to take charge. No grabbing the bull by the horns. Leave that baton where you found it. Sorry, planets of the Solar Federation, we will not be resuming control. We're calling out sick today. We're going to sit around in our underwear, munch on Tostitos, and watch Parks and Rec reruns all day. The debut full-length from Hamburg 4-piece Deep Dive is the perfect soundtrack for a day spent chilling out.
All right, so here you have short 4 to 5 minute slices of psychedelic pop with lots of quirky guitar hooks and dreamy female vocals from Anlin Sengul. Unmade Beds offers lots of chiming acoustics, low-key synth lines under the surprise flute line here and there. Slower melancholic cuts echo the blank jangles of Dead Meadow with a retro touch of the Hollies around the edges.
I'd say so. It's moody and psychedelic, but don't get the wrong idea. These cuts glisten with vitality. The slashing power pop guitar of Rush against Single's snappy vocals are a highlight of the disc. The whole thing is frosted with a kind of post-punk guitar noodling. I love the slide guitar solo in Laundromat. It's like downing a full bottle of oral cough syrup. The near 6-minute Dracula Force that we're going to play for in a minute, that's the disc's undisputed apogee. The guitarists John Hintz and bassist Hawk Seept are working up a quirky Buzzcocks type of lather. The vocals don't come in for like a good minute and a half. I love that. So distorted guitars are soon knocking down doors and disappearing just as quickly. It's different, enjoyable, moody, full of arresting idiosyncrasies. Prepare for Deep Dive to take the indie rock world by storm while you finish your Grubhub and settle in for a nap.
Also, Dracula Force has a really crazy video up on YouTube, but be prepared. It apparently, it's filmed at this great old crumbly castle, God only knows where, covered in vines.
Oh, wow.
Lots of makeup and a handheld camera that could only be paralleled to something out of the Blair Witch Project.
Wow. Okay. Well, why don't you introduce the song?
This is that song I was just referencing. This is Dracula Force.
All right, Deaf Ears 3, go ahead.
All right, shift gears again. This is Deaf Ears 3, Halocene. This is Maleficent, which is a great word.
Yes.
This is an EP. Now, this is a band that has prided itself as a do-it-yourself. There's no big label or management team backing them. They're active since 2008 out of Phoenix, Arizona. Halocene is formed, this is kind of their nexus, by duo Bradley Halocene Eric and his wife, Addie Nicole Amick. They added recently in the screams and growls of Lauren Babick as the virtual cherry on top here. Now, interestingly enough, when I was kind of looking a little deeper dive into this band, their shows are traditionally of almost equal blend of covers and originals.
Their cover of Sam Smith's Unholy went viral in 2022. They are also known to do covers of Linkin Park, Numb, Rage Against the Machines, Killing in the Name of, and 9 Inch Nails' Closer. Complete, there is a video of Closer that has all kinds of parental guidance warnings on it. One of their originals, Repent, Addie wrote for her mother and others that are victims of sexual, physical, and emotional abuse. And if you like big boa constrictors, you might want to check out that video as well.
Yeah. In terms of this 20-minute EP, it's packed with Addie's dreamy vocals and Bradley's riff crunch in tracks like Repent and The Mirror. The videos are full of snakes, cleavage, and other sinful pleasures. And I'm going to just pretend like the cover of Running Up That Hill doesn't exist on my version. So why don't we play Repent? Well. We had panic attacks. We had a lot of Aerosmith.
We had caffeination.
Yes, we did. We talked about why Ace doesn't handle hazmat freight. Right?
We talked about weird alcohol restrictions in Pennsylvania.
That's right, we did. And we found out that Margarita never had the date.
This has been the Snaggletooth Rock and Roll Podcast. Special thanks to Margarita to being brave enough to be on our show twice. The Snaggletooth theme, courtesy of the recently naked Jens Kemgren, except for his guitar, of course. Deaf Ears theme, courtesy of Tim Green. Deaf Ears bands, get over there, check them out, lap them up. Holocene, Deep Dyed, Project Rowanwolf. All content 2023, the Snaggletooth Rock and Roll Podcast.
Help, I'm lost.
This is the Snaggletooth Rock and Roll Podcast.